That might be the best question I get today. I'll tell you what it's going to be made of. It's going to be made of hardened concrete, and it's going to be made out of rebar and steel.
Donald Trump answering a question from a young fan on stage during a press conference, how the wall would be built that he might erect between our country and Mexico. Donald never stops getting himself in the public eye. It's 8:04 right now. Senator Joe Griffo joining us on the phone. Senator, how are you?
Often in the public eye right here.
That's right.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Dude, and Jay has settled into his seat here as well.
They allowed me back on a Friday, Joe. That's right, yep.
You're back on a Friday.
And we got a chance to hobnob with you a little bit yesterday. I saw you at Utica Roasters, and I think Jay saw you at the big event announcing the advent of Uber New York as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. That's a great area, though. So you go there to the Incubator, and we were talking and advocating for Uber. But then you stop at Utica Bread, then you come over to Utica Coffee, and you get to see a lot of people and a lot of great product.
It is. It's fun. It's nice. It's great to have the conversation. And it's also, I think the main point is that our local and state elected officials come together and cross party lines, whatever it may be, to try to get things done, such as this idea of Uber coming to our area. And how close, what is the next step? What do we need to do, Joe?
Well, I think we need to get some statewide legislation. The problem that we're having right now is that community by community are looking at this, and as we talked about yesterday, this is an evolving 21st century economy. When you look at new types of businesses like the ride-sharing apps like Uber and other type of activities and opportunities that you now use, whether it's through technology or social media, Uber is available. It's something that has worked. We can see this. And we can ensure, and that's what we want to do, that this is safe and reliable and affordable. So right now, the legislature needs to engage with the governor to have this available statewide. You do have this in the city right now, and other cities are looking at this, but I think this hodgepodge doesn't work. And I know there was some concerns expressed, I think, from the executive initially relative, again, to some of the points we raised. But this is being accessed across this country, and again, we're one of the last states to undertake a policy across the state. And I think that's the important thing here. You don't want this hodgepodge where you can get it in one city but not another. And I want to see our area have the opportunity to take advantage of this. So I'm hopeful that when we get back in January, this will be resolved hopefully quickly. And then every community in the state will have the opportunity to access the Uber app, and we'll obviously deal with the entire subject matter of ride sharing, because you have Lyft, you have others too. Uber is what we're talking about yesterday.
Yes, and exciting there on one front of transportation. Another one today at 10. I know you're involved in the news about Centro there. We had Congressman Hanna on the phone about a half an hour ago as well, and you guys will be joining together to give the good news about that to the folks of Utica today too.
Yeah, that was great news, and again, the congressman stepped up, and I know Senator Schumer was involved, and that was important because that was a legislative tactic and maneuver that would have lost significant funding for particularly in the Northeast for mass transit, which is important for our communities. So I compliment Congressman Hanna for making sure that was addressed and reversed, and as a result of that, that money will flow. And this is important to me because when I was county exec, we actually merged all the systems and went to this regional approach at Central. We brought Central in here knowing that I felt that they had a very good product, that they were managed well, and that they would provide excellent service. And they have done that over the last decade plus. So I'm glad that the congressman working again in the Senate and the House were able to put this, put everybody at ease right now and get this done. And that money is very important. And we in the state also contribute to the mass transit operations across the state.
And Senator, you mentioned yesterday after the Uber announcement, there are many great places to frequent and maybe grab a bite to eat, coffee, Utica bread. Do you watch your calories or count your calories?
That's a good thing. I mean, we talked about that with Dave and Beth yesterday, and I think we made a couple of good points. Look, we all want to be health conscious, and I respect the opportunity to provide information so people can make informed decisions. I welcome that. I understand that. But I think there's an overreach now. And I think what you're alluding to is the FDA, what I have really called on the FDA to rethink, again, another mandate, which will be placed upon communities, but particularly industry, and in this case, the craft brew industry. And that's a problem. I mean, we in New York, we've been having summits on wine, beer, spirits, and cider, and we see the businesses growing. We just had an individual announce, A.J. Spadle and a few others, talking about this hops farm and craft brewery in Marcy. So this has really become a fledgling industry that is growing significantly. And that means that people are being employed, and it's really contributing to our economy. And as I indicated, the state has actually had summits on this and tried to facilitate that type of growth. And we've seen outstanding and significant growth. And that's a good economic piece. So now for the FDA to require these type of requirements about nutritional content, which will essentially make these craft brewers expend a lot more money in order to test it and try to develop that. And some of them will be denied access to the market as a result of that. Some of them will not be able to afford doing this and may end up not staying in the business. It just doesn't make any sense. And I know that's a long answer to a very succinct question, Jay. So the answer is, yeah, you should watch and know, but in the end, if you're going to a bar to get a beer, you know that there's going to be some calories there.
Right, and very little nutritional value in any kind of bottle of beer. I don't care what type it is. I support the idea.
Dave, that depends, I guess, who you ask. Somebody might think it's very nutritious, right?
I suppose we had a beer expert in yesterday, and he claimed that it's mostly water, and he's in the beer business himself, so he was being very honest about the whole deal.
Breakfast of champions, you know?
That's right.
But you make a good point, Dave. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's an excellent point.
We're talking with Senator Joe Griffo on the phone here on the Talk of the Town at 100.7 FM WUTQ.
Senator, if I could try to pin you down on something here, the Utica Common Council Wednesday night approved a motion to dedicate the new pedestrian bridge over the north-south arterial in the name of Corey Carr, a 13-year-old who was killed in 1995 while riding his bike by a drunk driver. Now a resolution going to the Senate and Assembly for approval because this is a New York State highway. Your thoughts? Do you think this resolution will go through, and are you on board with it?
Well, naming things are always challenging, but if the community requests, then we'll look at it. We'll have to discuss it with DOT to get their perspective. But I've spoken to Councilman Testa in the past, and if the community has expressed their desire after we discuss this with DOT, we'll take it from there. But so this is an approach when it's a state facility or structure that it would have to receive legislative and then ultimately the signature of the governor. And we have done things like that. So I don't see issues here. But again, all I have is the phone call that I had from Councilman Testa. And we'll take a look at this, talk to the DOT and the Assemblyman, and I'll discuss it. And then we don't go back until January, so it's not something that will happen right away, but it's something that we could, introduce, and then we'll see how it unfolds.
And going back in January,
I don't see an issue there once the community has expressed an interest and a desire, unless the DOT has some kind of an issue with it, which I find unlikely to.
Good to hear. Anything specific you think that will be prominent in January? I know some of the story coming out this morning in regards to maybe revamping the correctional facility or looking into maybe some greater mandates. Nice-Scoba, I know the Assembly held a little focused hearing yesterday to try to get inmates and staff around the state on the same page here.
Well, I think we've got a lot to do. I mean, you had the issue at, in the North Country with the escape last year. So we got a lot to deal with when we go back. We're going to have to focus on education. We have to look at primary education and a lot of the issues. The governor's got a task force out there. We need to listen to stakeholders. We need to get a better formula. So it's going to be a lot on that primary education. higher education, we need to continue to focus on affordability and access to higher education. Utica College did an extraordinary thing this year, and hopefully that'll prompt a lot of us to continue to work with our universities, both in the public and private sector. Economic development, economic issues are going to be a priority as we continue to create the climate where there's job opportunities. You have the correctional issues, as you indicated, the state agency issues. You're going to have health care issues. There's not going to be any shortage for a lot of challenges that are going to be facing the legislature and the governor as we move into the new session, which will be dominated initially by the budget and then later for legislation. So there's a lot that will be on our plates, and I'm hopeful that we'll continue to make sure that we're working cooperatively, even though we may disagree on issues politically or philosophically, that we're going to get some results for the people. Because in the end, you got to look at the problem and then find a solution to the problem, and that you have to consider that there will be different perspectives. Like I saw something yesterday, like where they want to restore TAP for inmates.
Mm-hmm.
I right now would have I'm not supportive of that at this point in time. And we have college kids who need that right now, and we're not getting to as many hardworking men and women and their children right now to make sure that college is affordable. To now extend that when you have limited resources to individuals who are incarcerated, and I think that's a problem. Now, I'm not opposed to programming in the correctional facilities to help in educational opportunities, but I think we've really got to I don't know if that came out of that hearing in the Assembly yesterday, but these are the kind of things we really have to have a more thorough discussion on and debate as to how we prioritize and where we direct our resources.
A lot of controversy swirling around the state capitol. You mentioned getting things done. Some leadership changes, obviously, there on both the Assembly and Senate side. Yesterday, we had Senator Jeff Klein on, and I asked him a question about his influence with the Independent Democratic Caucus, or the IDC. Do you feel they'll have a stronger hold this year? Do you think everybody will be working on the same page, with the change of leadership and what's going on in Albany?
Well, it's fortunate to have Senator Flanagan here on Tuesday. So we had the Senate Majority Leader here in Utica, Rome, and that was an important visit because he had an opportunity to familiarize himself with a lot of our issues and to see things directly. And I think that's always important. So when I'm speaking about the needs in our community and advocating for our particular projects, he has now a better familiarization and understanding because he's been able to witness it, and I applaud his willingness to travel to do that. And then Senator Klein, we've had a good working relationship with the IDC. I believe that we will continue to see that. Senator Valesky and I have always worked very closely and cooperatively. We have a good personal relationship as well as a professional relationship. So I believe that we'll continue to see work, a collaborative effort and cooperation. And again, you don't have to abandon your moral or philosophic or political beliefs in order to get this to do that, but in the end, we want to make sure we get things done too, because the people have entrusted us to do a job and to find solutions to the problems that are plaguing our communities and the state as a whole. So I think that's going to go well. But again, I've learned that to always expect the unexpected there, and it's very difficult to predict.